Welcome to the Youth Voice, a podcast giving young people a voice in politics across the island of Ireland. So, very different episode today. We're here with Sam Lawrence. He is a candidate for the Ohio State House of Representatives in America. He's 19, one of the youngest candidates, I think, really running in the midterms. So, it's a big deal to see someone so young. It's kind of refreshing to always have young people in politics, and that's what we're all about here at the Youth Voice. And I thought they've got midterms coming up over there, and well, we do love an election here at the show. So I thought, why not do a bit of coverage? We'll hopefully do some more. Also, want to maybe branch out to maybe some Spanish stuff, European stuff. We're going to be doing a lot over this summer and the next term. Also, to anyone, provided this goes out on time, good luck with results tomorrow. I know that everyone in the UK gets their A level results, and there will be GCSE ones out next week. Good luck with that. I'm in the same boat. It's scary, but it'll be fun. And if you're over 18, you can go out and enjoy yourself. But I suppose we'll get straight in. So welcome to the show. And I first of all wanted to ask, why did you decide to run?
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks for having me, Dermot. It's a pleasure to come on. And that's probably the question I get the most. Why did you decide to run at 19 years old? And my response is always the same. Why the heck not? You see these policies that are especially going through the House of Representatives here in Ohio, but also nationally, all across the United States and even internationally. You see the average age of our legislators is usually above the age of 60. Here in Ohio, it's older. So I think it's time for a fresh new voice in our politics. I'm providing my generation with a voice that's been left behind for a long time. When you look at many of these policies, like policies on climate change, these are issues that are going to affect my generation coming in the coming years. So I think it's a really important that we get a fresh new voice to bring some fresh new ideas.
And you mentioned policy, so let's chat policy. What are your core issues? I know that you mentioned climate change, but what else? Why should people vote for Sam Lawrence? What are you going to deliver?
Yeah, well, with climate change, that is an existential issue, and that should be on the top of every candidate's list. And big picture wise, it sure is. But when you look at our race specifically, I'm running an intense anti corruption campaign. If you didn't know, my opponent is Sarah Carruthers. She's running for a third term in the Ohio House. And last year, she took a $52,000 bribe in broad daylight after attempting to push through legislation that was funded by special interests. So uh, it's very clear that my county, Butler County in Southwest Ohio, we have a corruption problem. Our own county commissioner said we have a Republican corruption problem with a history of Republican electeds going to jail for their crimes, such as bribery, corruption. Our county auditor right now has just been indicted on felony counts of corruption and bribery. So again, this is a problem that's been around in Butler County for a very, very long time. I think the best way to remedy that is to put forward someone who hasn't had any prior experience to kind of to take this money from special interests, right? When you have politicians that have been in office and their only priority is staying in office, then it becomes this vicious cycle of them taking money and them taking again bribes for power. And really, it's unacceptable to me, and a lot of the people in my generation seem to think so.
And talking about, I mean, you have no experience in elected politics before. It's very rare anyone at 19 does. Do you think that young people of our age are qualified for public office? I mean, I know over in America that you can't become president until 35, and I think the Senate is 30, and the
Yes.
House is 20, the National and Congress is 25. America does have things in place for that, whereas over here we don't. Do you think people should be able to kind of get involved much earlier? At 18, 19, the way you are, hopefully.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's important that we get involved. And you're right that you can't run for president until you're 35. And one of the most common questions, I suppose, that I get asked is, how are you running for the House? You're not 25. And then I have to tell them that I'm running for the state House of Representatives. And then the next most common question I get is, what is a state house? So first of all, civic education and talking to people about these positions and what they do is important. But yeah, I think it's really important, especially when you have a young candidate such as myself, to ask if they're qualified. I mean, those are questions we have to be prepared to answer. So first of all, experience does not necessarily mean one is qualified. Again, in the case of my opponent, she spent 4 years just passing the most horrendous legislation along with the Ohio Republicans in the state house. They have a supermajority, as well as, again, she took a bribe. She had another scandal in which she refused to pay someone an entire house that she had promised them. It's on tape. This experience does not make us qualified. And in fact, in some cases, it makes us less qualified. So I have nothing against experience. And I take a lot of my values and how I'm running this campaign and how I intend to govern from a lot of politicians that I look up to, public servants who have really put it all on the line for their communities. But I think what's important to look at is on a case by case basis. Look at the candidate, look at the race. I think you will see when you look at mine, based on my previous experiences and based on my platform, as well as, again, the specific race we're running. I think you can see that I'm more qualified than my opponent, which again is something not a lot of people would expect coming from a 19-year-old.
And on, I suppose, looking at it from an international perspective, we are a podcast based in Northern Ireland, so I suppose we do have to look at it that way. Whenever you look at America, the biggest two issues that people raise, at least from what I've heard, I mean, I've been studying US politics for a couple of years now, is guns and abortion. Now, abortion seemed to be an open, seemed to be a shut deal until the overturning of Roe v. Wade. What do you think of the whole situation with abortion?
So I think you're right. The two most prominent national issues in our country right now happens to be the issue of guns and the issue of abortion. So starting off, abortion, Roe v. Wade, this was a precedent that was set way before I was born, over 50 years ago. And Supreme Court justices, when they testified, said that they would not overturn set precedent. This has been the law of the land. And not only are they taking away the right to choose, they're taking away the right to privacy. In states like mine, there have already been leaks of Republicans planning on taking away, birth control. And then you go down that rabbit hole, and some are suggesting that Obergefell versus Hodges, the Supreme Court case that legalized gay marriage across the state, across the nation, that might be next. And when you see what the Republicans are doing, they're solely focused on taking away your rights. Again, this was settled precedent. And I think when you look at the vast majority of America, our people respect the right to choose. Frankly, Kansas put it on the ballot. Kansas, if you don't know, is one of the most Republican states in America. It's much more red than my home state of Ohio. And they voted 60-40 to protect a woman's right to choose when they actually put it on the ballot. So when you take away the aspect of all of these unelected old men making decisions for the rest of the country, you realize that the country has been the same as it has since Roe was first established. This was the law of the land. This was set precedent. We cannot afford to go back.
And on guns, I mean, America is known internationally as the country that is insane for guns. I mean, over here in Northern Ireland, we had essentially what many people to consider a civil war, and our gun, we don't have a gun issue. So, I mean, school shootings are only an issue in America. Mass shootings are largely an American issue compared to the rest of the world. Ohio itself has very, I suppose, liberal gun laws. I believe is the correct word. I mean, open carry seems to be a thing. There seems to be concealed carrying is also a thing. I mean, if you said over here the idea of walking into a local supermarket with an AR-15, people would, they'd run in fear. But over in America, it seems to be almost an established thing. What do you think of the whole gun situation?
So in America, the Second Amendment guarantees the right to bear arms, but what most people don't look at is the clause of that states a well-regulated militia. In my opinion, a well-regulated militia does not constitute somebody who has just turned 18 being able to walk into a store without background checks and buy two AR-15s. If you look at all of these mass shootings and the school shootings, which you correctly pointed out are a uniquely American problem. Other countries do not have this problem. Most of these guns were bought legally. Many seem to cling on to the argument that good guys with guns will stop the bad guys with guns. That has been disproven over and over again. I respect the Second Amendment. I see no reason why these weapons of war have a place in our communities. And again, like you said, I believe it was New Zealand who had the Christchurch shooting. Parliament took action a year later, and they haven't had a shooting since. I believe the same thing happened in Scotland with a school shooting, and I think it was 2004.
Much
But
earlier.
Parliament took action, and they have not had an issue since. This is a uniquely American problem. So once we can stop pretending that America is the greatest country in the world and perfect in every single way, and realize that the founding fathers didn't intend for these high capacity assault rifles with magazines with upwards of 40 bullets being able to kill so many people in a span of seconds. They didn't consider that, and they made the Constitution so it's an imperfect set of rules. They made it with the intention of it being changed as the times change. And frankly, I can't reiterate enough, the gun problem in America is so incredibly harmful to all of our citizens. Our Ohio's own governor, Mike DeWine, just signed permitless carry, that bill I think you mentioned, but you don't have to have a concealed carry permit to carry a weapon in Ohio. That is insane to me. Universal background checks, red flag laws, safe storage laws. These are all incredibly popular positions, even among Republicans and even among gun owners. Yet, because of our politicians that are again held up by these special interests, we can't do anything about it until we actually have a majority to work with.
Talking about having majorities, you're a Democrat. The Democrats, in terms of national issues, seem to be like they should be in control. Joe Biden's in power. The Democrats have the House. They have the Senate. There must be some feelings of political apathy and looking at the situation in America with the Democrats and thinking, what's the point? Whenever people are being told to go out and vote, and yet Roe v. Wade still gets overturned. The Supreme Court is packed full of conservatives. How can people look at voting Democrat and think, yeah, well, we're still going to do it simply because it doesn't seem to be working for people?
That's one or I guess that's one sentiment that I hear a lot is what's even the point of voting? Both parties are equally bad. They are the same. That is absolutely positively not true. If you look at the historic progress the Democrats have made in just the past week, you can see that we are focused on bettering people's lives. And again, Republicans, because they're held up by special interests like the gun lobby, like big pharma, like big oil, uh, they are basically barred by their own self-interest from voting on anything that actually betters their constituents' lives. So at a state level, in the state house, the Democrats are in a super minority. That's due to gerrymandering. So basically, the Republicans have drawn the districts in the state house in Ohio to where it's nearly impossible for Democrats to win back a majority. But that starts with voting, and we're never going to make any progress until we actually try and do something. Yesterday I was in Columbus with all of our state house candidates that are Democrats here in Ohio. We all had a retreat where we went over strategy, went over how we are coordinating our campaigns together. And I can tell you, there has never been a movement like this that is now in the state of Ohio, where Democrats are banding together. Ohio has typically been a swing state. It was for many, many years. It has been trending to the right. It has been trending Republican. We are on par to stop that course. You've got Tim Ryan running for Senate in my state. You've got Nan Whaley running for governor to take down Mike DeWine, who signed that senseless permitless carry bill. Again, we are on the side of all of our constituents.
And I suppose the big question for any young person in politics is, I suppose, definitely in America, am I going to see you in the White House someday?
We'll see. That's a pretty big job, and seeing as I wouldn't, even if I wanted to, I wouldn't be able to run for another 16 years. We'll see. I will keep you updated. Right now, I'm very focused on this race. A lot of people have asked me about higher aspirations or what I intend to do. Right now, my focus is solely on winning this race. So then when I'm inaugurated in January, I'll be able to start serving my constituents. After that, I could look towards how I might be able to better serve them. But for right now, the state house is my priority.
And I suppose one final question. Sell it to me. why should people in your district in Ohio, why should they vote for you?
They should vote for me because I'm running on a platform of common sense over corruption. We've had a politics, not just in the United States, but specifically in Ohio, that has valued corruption, that has valued politicians taking on their own self-interests over the needs of their constituents, over the needs of the people who elected them. And again, because of these unfair maps, our maps were shot down by the Ohio Supreme Court 6 times, and we're still running with unfair maps. When I launched this race, I didn't even know the maps that I would be running in. It was after I had launched and everybody had launched their campaigns that we found out what the maps would be. So again, there is one party who is clearly respecting the rule of law. I understand that I'm in Ohio, and Ohio is a state that's trending red. You shouldn't have to agree with politicians or those who represent you on every single issue. If you're doing that, you're doing something wrong. My goal is to get out, talk to the people who I know my opponent, Sarah Carruthers, is not doing. She's busy spending her time in her mansion. She is not out talking to voters. She is not out seeing what they need, and she is not out there really connecting with people and promising to bring them that aspect of public service.
Well, I think we'll leave it there. Thank you for coming on. Obviously, to our listeners, thank you for listening. As always, you can read our blog at www.youthvoiceni.com. You can catch me on Twitter at dhamel2004, and you can catch the Youth Voice at youthvoiceni on Twitter. Catch us on Instagram at youthvoice_ni. And I suppose, do you want to drop your socials?
Yeah, so you can follow me on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube. They're all at Sam for Ohio. Look up Sam for Ohio or Sam Lawrence and you will find me. I'd love for you to go to my website, samforohio.com. Check out what more I'm about. But again, Dermot, thank you for having me on. This has been amazing.
Thank you. And obviously, I've been Dermot Hamill. It has been great. We will hopefully be having some discussions with some senators coming up, with Irish senators, that is. We'll hopefully be talking to Senator Aaron McGreehan of Fianna Fáil about the possibilities of United Ireland. We're going to be talking to more young people. Hope, as always, good luck with results tomorrow. To anyone that wants to get involved, you know where to reach me. You can email me at dermot@youthvoiceni.com. I've been Dermot Hamill. Thank you very much.